Hi, you are on the Revenge Eddie channel.
I always believed there would be more time. Time for another phone call, another visit, another chance to finally say the words I had swallowed my whole life. Parents are supposed to be constants, the steady background of our lives. You know they'll leave someday, but you push that thought away, convinced someday is far off. For me, someday came on a Sunday morning, with a phone call that told me my father hadn't woken up. Growing up in his shadow. My dad worked in an Ohio factory for over 3 decades. He left before the sun rose, lunch pail in hand, and came home 12 hours later, shoulders slumped, smelling of metal and grease. He wasn't the kind of father who coached Little League or sat at the dinner table asking about school. He was a provider, a man who measured love in hours worked and bills paid. As a boy, I didn't understand. I wanted hugs, long talks, words of affirmation. What I got were lectures about working hard and warnings not to end up soft. I thought his silence meant he didn't care. Looking back now, I see it differently. Silence wasn't neglect, it was exhaustion. His strictness wasn't cruelty, it was the only language of survival he knew. But as a child, I couldn't translate it. The call. I was 33, living 2 states away, when my sister's number lit up my phone. Her voice broke before she got the words out, "Dad didn't wake up this morning." I froze in my kitchen, coffee dripping into a half-empty pot. "What do you mean he didn't wake up?" I demanded, as if repeating the question could undo it. There was no undoing. Heart attack. Quick. Painless. He didn't suffer, the doctor told my mom later. But those words were useless to me. Suffering was mine now. I drove through the night, headlights cutting through the dark, tears streaming so heavily I had to blink them away just to see the road. Every mile brought me closer to a house that would never feel the same. The house without him. When I stepped inside, it was like walking into a world robbed of its center. His boots by the door, jacket hanging on the chair, coffee mug in the sink. All the evidence of him remained, except the man himself. My mom sat at the kitchen table, clutching a tissue like it was her last anchor. My sister collapsed into me, sobbing. I wanted to be strong, but inside, I was gutted. How do you hold up your family when you can barely stand yourself? The funeral. Funerals are strange. They compress a lifetime into a few days of logistics, casseroles, and polite condolences. Old coworkers shook my hand, telling me how dependable my dad was, how he never complained. Neighbors said I looked just like him. I nodded, numb, staring at the casket that held a face both familiar and unrecognizable. I stood by that casket longer than I should have, searching for traces of the man who raised me. His stillness unsettled me. My father had always been in motion, working, fixing, building. Seeing him motionless felt like staring at a lie. Afterward, we gathered at my parents' house. People swapped stories about his work ethic, his dry humor, the way he always carried extra jumper cables in his truck, just in case. I listened, realizing how little I had known about parts of his life. The ambush of grief. Grief didn't hit all at once. It crept in, ambushing me in small moments. At the grocery store, I froze in front of the coffee brand he always bought. In the hardware aisle, my throat tightened seeing tools he would have known how to use. The first time my sink clogged, I broke down, not because of the clog, but because I realized I couldn't call him anymore. Anger came too. I was furious that he never went to the doctor, that he shrugged off chest pains as getting older. I was furious at myself for not visiting more, for keeping "I love you" locked inside because I thought there'd be time. Regret burned sharper than grief itself. Remembering differently. In the weeks after, memories surfaced, some I had buried. Like the time he fixed my bike after I wrecked it, hands moving faster than my tears. Or the night he drove through a snowstorm to pick me up because I was too scared to sleep at a friend's house. Or the morning of my high school graduation, when he sat in the stand stone-faced, but when our eyes met, he gave me the smallest nod. A nod that meant, I see you. I'm proud. I used to think love was something you said. My father showed me love in ways I didn't recognize until too late. Carrying the weight. After the funeral, I tried to go back to work, to routine, but grief hung on me like lead. I stared at screens without absorbing words. Nights were worse. I'd lie awake, replaying his last morning, imagining his final breath, wondering if he knew it was the end. Friends tried to comfort me with clichés, he's in a better place. Time heals. But time didn't heal. It only stretched the distance between the loss and the present moment. The ache stayed. Eventually, I started therapy. At first, it felt like betrayal, talking about my dad to a stranger. But one session changed me. My therapist said, "Grief is love with nowhere to go." That line pierced me. Because that's what it felt like, overflowing love, trapped inside, with no one to receive it. Lessons I didn't want but needed. His death forced me to reevaluate everything. I started calling my mom every day. Not just, "How are you?" but real conversations. I tell my friends I love them now, even if it feels awkward. I refuse to save those words for someday. I also started caring about my health. My dad had ignored warning signs, too proud or too stubborn to see a doctor. I promised myself I wouldn't repeat that mistake. Most importantly, I learned to speak the words he never could. He showed love through action. I try to honor him by doing both, through action and through voice. 3 years later. It's been 3 years. The grief hasn't disappeared, it never will, but it's changed shape. It lives with me now, less like a wound, more like a scar. Some mornings, I still reach for my phone to call him. Some nights, I dream he's alive, and waking up feels like losing him all over again. But I carry him differently now. When I fix something around the house, I hear his voice guiding me. When I push through exhaustion at work, I feel his presence. When I catch myself being stubborn, I laugh, because it's him in me. I never got to say everything I should have. But maybe the best way to honor him is to live it, to work hard, to love openly, to make sure my family hears in words and sees in actions the things he once tried to show in silence. He was my father. He should still be here. But he lives on in me, in the lessons, in the love, in the unspoken language we finally learned to translate after he was gone.